An assault on democracy, the 25th Amendment, and organ donation. This is your TLDR News daily briefing for Thursday the 7th of January. In the first story of the briefing today, we discuss the big news that unfolded last night in the US. We're sure you've probably already seen a lot about it, but we'll try and provide an overview of what happened here. The night started out with the president speaking to a rally of his supporters who were intending to march in Washington. He told them to make sure your voice is heard in relation to what he perceives as the fraudulent result of the US presidential election. When the crowd did reach Washington, specifically the Capitol building, they became violent and successfully stormed the building. When they got inside, they caused havoc, raiding the offices of senators and looting. This was a completely unprecedented night and something that hasn't happened since 1812. What made it even more unprecedented was that the president didn't fully condemn the criminals. He called them great patriots, although he did also tell them to go home. Many have compared his words from last night to his remarks about the BLM protesters last summer, about which he said, "When the looting starts, the shooting starts." This half-hearted attempt from the president to settle tensions was taken down by Twitter, as they saw it as breaking their rules. He also had his Twitter account suspended for 12 hours, swiftly followed by the suspension of his account on both Facebook and Instagram. Many world leaders condemned the events, and even went as far as criticising Trump personally. The UK's Home Secretary, Priti Patel, specifically said that Trump's remarks led to violence. We'd like to take the opportunity to state that we condemn the events that unfolded in Washington last night in their entirety, and that we deeply regret that at least 4 people lost their lives last night. Staying on the topic of the assault on democracy last night, we're going to discuss the speculation through the night that the 25th Amendment could be invoked in order to remove the power the president currently holds. It's undoubtedly a long shot and requires some of Trump's closest allies to turn against him, but after last night, anything seems possible. The 25th Amendment stipulates what happens when a president is no longer able to carry out their duties. It has been used before to transfer the powers of the president to the vice president while the president is unconscious due to surgery. For example, when Ronald Reagan was unconscious due to a cancer operation. However, it does have another use. If the vice president and the majority of the cabinet agree that the president is no longer fit for office. The president can contest this decision, and it will ultimately be up to Congress to decide whether or not the power should be transferred back to the president. A 2/3 majority will be needed in both houses of Congress in order to keep the vice president in charge. This part of the amendment has never been used before, and for good reason. In effect, it requires members of the president's inner circle and own party in Congress to turn against them. As we've said, this is unlikely, but some Democrats are pushing for it regardless. Democratic members of the House Judiciary Committee have written a letter to Vice President Mike Pence, urging him to start the process of taking power from the president. We'll have to see whether this actually ends up happening, and whether 2021 gets off to an even crazier start than 2020. If you want to know more about the whole situation, then we've released a video going into more detail over on the TLDR US channel. It's linked in the description. For the final story in today's daily briefing, we discuss a heart-wrenching story about organ donation here in the UK. Sarah Bingham's sons both have a rare genetic condition that requires them both to undergo a kidney transplant. Luckily for them, their mother is a match and is able to donate one of her kidneys. However, she can obviously only donate one. This means that she's had to decide which of her children to donate her kidney to. Their father is a different blood type, which means that he's unable to donate. This is clearly a heart-wrenching position for Miss Bingham to be in. There is the possibility that her children could have a kidney donated by a friend or family member, or that they could get one by waiting on the organ donor list. There are currently 4,500 people in the UK waiting for a transplant, and those on the waiting list have to undergo regular dialysis while they're waiting. This is undoubtedly a difficult time for the family, and we cannot imagine how difficult this decision is. For those of you who think the news is too long, be sure to check out tomorrow's daily briefing. Read the newsletter by signing up at tldrnews.co.uk/daily. Listen to the briefing by searching for TLDR News in your podcast app, or watch the briefing over at youtube.com/TLDR Daily.